Hello everybody and welcome to round 10 of the 2022 GP4 Offline Championship. We are here at the famous Silverstone circuit in Northamptonshire for the British Grand Prix. I am JW97 and I'm joined today by my arch nemesis Ra.
Yeah, hello everybody.
Yeah, indeed, and we're about to get underway for practice here. It's going to be a bone dry session, no rain expected during the practice session. Which is pretty unusual for the UK, but there we are. But anyway, obviously, we're here at Silverstone for round 10 of the season, and of course, for anybody who is not aware, of course, the 2023 sign-ups for the top class have now officially opened. So do look forward to that. Of course, as well, one thing to note, we do have a reserve driver in the car today, that being Nicholas Zorbach in the Haas. He'll be in the place...
We
What now?
forgot to change the livery for the Red Bull.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. Well, the Red Bull livery hasn't changed for the moment. You may remember that special livery that Red Bull had during the Austrian Grand Prix. Well, because Yuri was in a bit of a rush, he hasn't been able to change it just yet, but it will be changed before qualifying, so do bear in mind of that one. But anyway, we're about to get underway. As mentioned, Nicholas Zorbach is in the Haas today in place of Michael Mocho, so be aware of that one. As Roman Quag now then makes his way out onto the racetrack in the Renault, as the Frenchman makes his way out on track. And of course, we might as well talk about the last race at Austria, which happened last week as well, and in the end it was Franco Lopez who ended up taking the victory. Of course, Ra was on commentary alongside me during that race, and pretty much Ra, it was just the perfect performance really for the Mercedes driver, which now sees him back in the lead in the championship.
Yep, he did. He also had a bit. He also had pressure from Evan Byrne, because Byrne had a free stop, and when Byrne overtook him, he had to pit on that lap. So yeah, he was just free from Byrne.
Yeah, indeed, and of course, as mentioned, he now does retake the lead in the Drivers' Championship. Of course, he did win here at Silverstone 2 seasons ago. 2 seasons ago? No, 3 seasons ago, I should say. So Lopez has had a victory around the track, but so has Evan Byrne. He won here in 2011, so both of them will be looking to try and get a second victory around this circuit. As Roman Quag now then making his way towards Stoke Corners. We look at Laura Chung, who's trying to get by on the Williams of Jamie Griffiths, that is. And who knows really what the sign-ups could have in store, of course. Of course, as mentioned, the 2023 sign-ups are currently open right now, and they will be open until Saturday, so until 10 p.m. PST on Saturday. So if you haven't signed up yet, or you're still yet to potentially edit your choices, then you haven't got long, because you have only got until 10 p.m. BST to sort that one out, as Byrne is currently stuck behind some traffic at the moment as he looks to redeem himself from what was a pretty disastrous race in Austria. I mean, he was going for what was the free stop in that race, but in the end, it didn't really work out the way that Evan was planning.
Yeah, not only he lost the win, he lost the podium, and he didn't even finish in the top five as well. And behind his teammate Rook, of course, who started 11th as well. So not the best races for Evan Byrne, and he would want to forget that and bounce back in Silverstone.
Indeed so, as we'll be looking to see if he can try and reclaim the lead in the championship in this race, as Chung overtakes the Williams there into Cox Corner, and also Byrne wants to try and follow through as well. But anyway, other things as well that happened at the Austrian Grand Prix as well. We also had the fact that also in that race, it was a pretty good race for George Roke as well. Whilst one side of the Red Bull garage was not having the best of races, the other side definitely was. Despite the fact that he qualified in a lonely 11th last time out at the Austrian Grand Prix, he was able to fight back through the field and take another second place. We've been saying it quite a lot throughout the season, Rob, but George really does like that second place this season.
Like second places for him are like first places, are like wins for him, and yeah, he really does love second places, but he wants to be in one step up to the podium, just be in the top step of the podium.
And Armour, of course, still yet to get a victory in 2022. Whether that will come this week as well at their home race, we'll have to wait and see. Of course, Carr did win here back in 2020. Roke, of course, has won here back in 2008, but that was on the very old layout of Silverstone, and that was when he was driving for BMW Sauber. So he's never won on this specific layout of Silverstone, as currently he's at the top by 3/10 of a second ahead of Rahul Patel. But also, it was a race that really shone for the midfielders, it's fair to say, because you had the likes of Galloway and even Miklos Gal fighting for podiums, and even Laura Chung as well. It was a very strong outing for those three drivers.
Yeah, indeed. And yeah, Gal started in a great qualifying position in, what was it, fifth, I believe? Yeah, I think he started fifth. Chung started sixth, had a great start, was up to second, but then got overtaken by Byrne. And Byrne, and then just managed to finish in the top five. So it was a great result for Lamborghini, great result for AlphaTauri to get Gal in fourth. And of course, AlphaTauri got, I believe, double points with Q4, who also got points even though he started third with a one stop. And Galloway just getting the podium.
Yep, indeed, a great race for Jake Galloway, and of course was one of the two drivers that got driver of the day last time out at the Austrian Grand Prix. Could that really help him out with his sign-up chances? Patel has a double lock-up going through into Vale there, as he was trying to overtake the Williams that he's been stuck behind for quite a while. But could that really help Galloway out in the sign-ups, of course, because it has been quite a bit of an up-and-down season for the Ferrari driver, and maybe that performance has come at the right time for him. Of course, as well, during the sign-ups that came out, of course, on Sunday as well, we also had the 2023 trend, and it's safe to say that a lot of people are very got their eyebrows raised on one particular team with the 2023 trends, and it could really benefit them in 2023.
Yeah, and we pretty much know that one team, of course, that being Haas, of course, and they could be one to watch next season. And we don't know where they will be, but they could be close to Red Bull and Mercedes. But you never know.
Yep, of course, Haas do have an upward trend for their 2023 car, but whether that means they'll be closer to the two teams that were listed, or whether it was just a small upward trend, we will have to wait and see. But it is definitely one that's very interesting. Two other teams as well that have got upward trends for 2023 include Sauber and Williams. Sauber, of course, splitting up with Alfa Romeo at the end of the season. And speaking of which, we're looking at an Alfa Romeo right now of Bent Valdinga. But as mentioned, they've got an upward trend. Williams have also got an upward trend, which might please Felix Sontag and Jamie Griffiths at the moment. But whether it will mean that they can get off the back row of the grid and maybe start to charge in the midfield, we'll have to wait and see. You could say the only real thing that could prevent them from maybe getting off the back row of the grid is the fact that their engine, Lamborghini, might have a little bit of issues, because so far what we saw from the trending, it looks like Lamborghini have got a downward trend, as have Ferrari, and as have Aston Martin, with many people thinking, could they end up being the worst team on the grid next season?
I do believe Aston Martin might have the worst car on the grid for next season, but then again, we still have Toyota. Of course, we don't know where they will be in the pecking order, so yeah, it's still a mystery.
Yeah, indeed, Toyota making their debut in 2023, and of course, as usual with new teams coming in, their trend is usually kept a secret. So whether or not they will have a good car from the outset, like Lamborghini did in 2021, or whether they'll end up having one of the worst cars on the grid, we'll have to wait and see. It's all a bit of a mystery so far where Toyota will end up in the pecking order, as you just see a McLaren there getting by on an Aston Martin, which we were just talking about earlier on. So maybe not good signs for Aston Martin, but you never know, of course. It might just be a small downgrade in terms of trend, so it might not end up being a bad thing, but in terms of progression, I think they'll need to pray that the other teams that have got downward trends are very, very bad, but it's probably going to be a bit of an ass. But we'll wait and see, of course, when we get to pre-season testing in 2023. Other teams that have remained neutral, though, have included the top two teams currently, Mercedes and Red Bull. Renault has held the phone for a moment because De Rosa, very lucky there that he didn't go into the wall and he's gone for a spin as a result. And, well, I thought for a minute there that was going to be his session over, Ra.
And that was the biggest moment we've seen in this session, and even in Silverstone as well. And yeah, luckily it didn't go very far to the wall, but yeah, you didn't. he kept it under control, but then lost it when he had to go on the curb at high speed.
Yeah, indeed, and well, he really had to stamp on the brakes there to avoid going into the wall. Obviously, going over the bump there and going for a spin, but luckily nobody was near him at that point, so he should be able to get going pretty easily, and no problems whatsoever. But yeah, as mentioned, as the AlphaTauri there just gets by on De Rosa, I'd imagine his lap's going to get ruined. Same for that Mercedes there. But as mentioned, of course, the teams that have got neutral trends include Mercedes, Red Bull, Renault, even who else have got a neutral trend? McLaren have also got a neutral trend, which a lot of people are thinking has Joseph Willows made a bit of a mistake going back to McLaren. But as mentioned, you know, given that it's neutral and given that there are a few teams that have got backwards trends, might not be a bad thing. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. Clearly, Willows, if he does end up staying at McLaren, thinks there's a bit of confidence there that the team can still progress even with a neutral rating. But again, we'll just have to wait and see how that one sort of pans out, really, as Zorbat, the Haas reserve driver, trying to get by on the Williams there. Of course, Zorbat will be starting on the front row of the grid for the F2 race a little bit later on, so for him just getting some, you could say, just a little bit of track time out there before the Formula 2 race later on at 7 p.m. BST. Of course, he was meant to take part at Spielberg, but of course, all the things came a little bit last minute for Yuri, so it's ended up being moved to Silverstone, so that's why he's in the car right now. You may have noticed as well, there are two drivers that have got helmet changes from this race. Rahul Patel's got a little bit of an update to his helmet in that he's actually got the Indian flag now as opposed to just the colours of the Indian flag, and also I've also added the symbol of the Indian flag on both sides as well to give it a bit of a unique perspective. And also Amelia Wilson has got a new helmet for the remainder of her time in the top class. She's got Alex Albon's Silverstone 2022 helmet. If you've been on Discord, then you might figure out why she's chosen that helmet. But it's kind of understandable why she'd choose that helmet. Anyway, as Laura Chung, currently, where's she at the moment? She's currently 17th at the moment, so not exactly ideal for her. We just saw Griffiths there doing improvement, but he's still over a second behind teammate Felix Sontag. But yeah, as mentioned though, it could be quite interesting to see what the 2023 pecking order looks like with all the 2023 trends that we've got that were shown on the sign-up video there, so it should be quite interesting indeed. We're looking at David Cupot now, who is currently fending off from a Mercedes there. And, well, we talked about Cupot briefly at the Austrian Grand Prix, how he qualified in third position, but clearly the one stop was not the way for go. Although he did get points in the end, it's probably a kick to the gut for him, really, given that it could have been so much better had he been on a similar strategy to, like, Mikael Oskal, for example.
Yeah, I think I think if he had the similar strategy to Gal, a podium would have been there. I think he would have gotten the podium. Yeah, but it's more of a what if. But I mean, he did well with that one stop. Got some points on the board for AlphaTauri. Got extra points, so that's good. And hopefully, really continues to score more points here.
Yep, as AlphaTauri, of course, were able to move up to 6th in the Constructors' Championship, and they're currently actually, I think, tied with Haas in the Constructors, but because Haas have had higher results than AlphaTauri this season, it has meant that that Haas is still ahead of them so far. So still pretty close, though, in that scrap for, you could say, 5th position, because it does seem now that Ferrari have started to pull a little bit of a buffer now to Haas in the Constructors, but you never know, it could all change in these remaining 12 races of the season. As we look at Chris Chatfield now then, in the Ferrari, who's currently negotiating traffic at the moment, currently getting stuck by a Williams and an Aston Martin so far in this session, as Chatfield now then making his way through Woodcote now then. As we now look at Felix Sontag, who's currently holding up a Ferrari, might as well talk about as well some news that came out during the sign-ups, and that is, in terms of sponsorship news, Renault will not be having DP World as a title sponsor from next season. The sponsor will not be replaced, so they'll just be the Renault F1 team like they were back in 2019. So no replacement for DP World there, so you won't be seeing any of that branding on the car next season. But that's the only sponsorship-related news we have for that as well. Carr now makes a mistake at the same corner where Kiro had his issues, but unlike Kiro, not as dramatic.
Yeah, luckily he sees it in time. Doesn't run over to the bump, so that's good. Which, of course, caused Kiro to lose control and spin the car.
Yeah, indeed, and luckily he didn't go over that bump at a massive amount as well, so at least he didn't end up losing the back end of the car. As a result, of course, Car is desperate, of course, because it's safe to say, the last couple of races for Armar have not, France was okay, but it's safe to say that Austria, that is a race that he wants to forget straight away because, it just seemed like in the race, his pace he just seemed a little bit lost last week.
Yeah, feeling a little bit lost, and he was pretty much racing Q-Puck as well, who was on the one stop, so he really had difficulties overtaking cars. So that's a bit unusual for Mercedes to have difficulty on overtaking.
Yeah, indeed, as Sontag there having to let the Ferrari through there. They went side by side for quite a while at that part of the track as Galloway now then is heading back into the pits at the end of this lap, same as Felix Sontag actually. And Galloway, I've mentioned, of course, got a podium last time out at the Austrian Grand Prix, looking to continue that momentum onto the remainder of the season. As for Dairy, we're now looking at Andre Verderi in the Aston Martin, and we were talking about this before we went on the air, because last season it wasn't exactly the best of memories for Verderi, because it was looking like he was going to get his first ever podium in the top class last season at the circuit, but it all got ruined by Franco Lopez, who ended up getting a time penalty as a result of that. And given the pace of that Aston Martin, I don't think we're going to be seeing Verderi unless some kind of miracle happens. I don't think he's going to be replicating that performance this week.
Yeah, unfortunately, the last season was pretty much a lot of what ifs for Andre Federi, and yeah, considering that he's in the Aston Martin and considering that it's not where it is compared to the Alfa Romeo of last season, yeah, that's going to be a difficult task. I think it'll be even difficult for him to get points.
Yeah, indeed, and it'll be obviously the Aston Martin not having the best of cars this season, and we talked about as well with their trend for 2023. It looks like the cars might get a little bit worse. Whether they'll end up being the worst team on the grid is going to be another question, given the team that's currently behind them in the pecking order, Williams, is having an upward trend. But whether Williams' upward trend is going to be significant or not, we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, we're now riding on board with Chris Chatfield in the Ferrari as we look at Roman Quarg, who's just trying to find his way through on the Ferrari there, but can't find a way through. Roman Quarg, of course, it's safe to say for Renault this season, because they have been a team this season that have at times unsettled the top two teams, which have been Mercedes and Red Bull. But in the last race, Perinen looking like he was going to have a strong result, but once again, Perinen having mechanical failures. And as somebody pointed out, I think either in a DM of mine or in the Discord chat, I can't remember, it seems that Perinen seems to have acquired the bad luck that Byrne had when he was at Renault last season.
Yeah, I feel like he had that kind of bad luck as well. And it's sad, but of course, these things happen, but he's got to pick it up. And of course, this is also after he got his first win of this in the top class, and even before his first win as well.
Yeah, indeed, and obviously he did obviously get his first ever victory this season at the Chinese Grand Prix.
It, cut off there. Yeah, Jay's back. Is he? Yeah. Um, we look at Chatfield. Now currently not on the personal best. He's currently in ninth, and hopefully we can hear Joe. As Brennan improves, he goes up to 11th. Look at Griffiths. He's up on his personal best. Joe has some issues. Hopefully he can sort that out. Rogue extends his advantage. Chatfield, he doesn't improve. He stays where he is. Chung improves. He's in 10th, sets the exact same time as Chatfield, surprisingly enough. You're wondering if it's that as well, connection issues. Hopefully he's back this time. Griffiths improves, he goes 20th. Cross is down on his personal best in the first sector. Still having trouble as Joe. Sontag improves, but he stays where he is.
There we go.
22nd. Now he's back.
I have no idea what happened there because I was still hearing you, Ra, so I don't understand why it disconnected. That's a little bit strange there. I do think that I will be honest here. I don't know if anybody's I don't know if anybody's aware, but Virgin Media, which is the internet provider I have, recently had a blackout last night, and I think that might be still some effects from it. Not just here, but across the country, apparently, that Virgin Media had a massive blackout. That's why, if you were on Twitter during last night, you may have seen that Virgin Media was trending. That's because they had a massive blackout across England, basically, and maybe in Ireland as well, if Virgin Media is there. I don't know. But anyway, I'm back, but let's see how far this goes, really. That was a little bit of a strange one there.
You were talking about Aces Pridden, right?
Yes, I was. I was talking about how he's had bad luck throughout the season, didn't I? But I think we covered most of it anyway when you were talking about it. So, might as well move on from Perrin, of course, and move on to his teammate Roman Quarg. So, obviously, with Roman Quarg, it's been for him, really, he's had a much better year than what, in terms of the look side, compared to Perinin. But it just seems like throughout the season, Renault have just had difficulties with consistency, and it seems like it's caught on to Roman Quark because he only was able to achieve 8th place in the last race at Austria. So yeah, consistency definitely an issue at Renault so far.
If it keeps on going, they could even lose out to Ferrari, strangely enough, and this could be deja vu.
Yeah, indeed. Deja vu indeed, because you may remember, of course, throughout last season, Renault was ahead of Ferrari for most of it. It's cost us a bit of a moment going through into Abbey there. But yeah, as mentioning, obviously they were ahead of Ferrari for most of that season, but when it came to the end of the season, Ferrari, thanks to that run they had in the second half of the season, they ended up beating them to third in the Constructors' Championship, even having an outside shot of win the Constructors at the last race in Brazil. So yeah, I don't think Ferrari are going to be able to have that run they had in the second half of the season like they did last season, because I don't think this car is up to the task of what last year's car was able to produce. But you never know, of course. If the consistency keeps on going for Renault, we could see Ferrari, by some miracle, get ahead of Renault in the Constructors again, Ra.
Yeah, but let's see what happens. Pridden did at the moment. He was actually up by 3 tenths on his personal best, and he lost all that in the final sector.
Yeah, indeed. As Perinin now then is currently out there having a lap, as we're now looking at Bartjes Kloss in the Haas now. Then Kloss having a very good season, and of course he had a pretty good comeback in the last race at the Austrian Grand Prix, because of course he did end up getting damage as a result of the Rahul Patel first lap crash, of course. But he ended up making his way back through the field and ended up getting a points finish, getting ahead of Michael Motto. And I do remember saying at the time during that race, for Michael Motto, that was not really a good look for him, given that Kloss had to come back through the field after sustaining damage on the first lap.
Yeah, and yeah, of course, and that is no ideal. I feel like Mocha didn't really have the pace compared to Klaus, but considering that Klaus did get damage on the first lap, that's even worse. And just through here. Oh god, it's happened again. He can hear me still. We have to wait a bit more for Joe to get back. Well done, Virgin Media. I could say I'm kind of glad I left the country. But moving out of the off-topic part, right? Let's look at what we're looking at. Chatfield, he's down on his personal best, didn't improve, and he's gonna end that stint. And he's coming in and just going in front of the Lamborghini, who's just out of the pits. I believe that is Lloyd Chung. Yep, I think that is Lloyd Chung. I think that is a blue helmet. Yeah. There's going to be an inlet to the pits. Chung will try and overtake Ferrari. I don't know how much she will catch up before she starts her lap. Look at Jantis Martis, who's also coming into the pits. It's got more than less than 60 minutes to go from this practice session. Chung is going for around the outside, but Shepard will come into the pits. As now we look at Carl, who, excuse me, is right behind his teammate Franco Lopez. As he tried to overtake him into turn one, didn't quite work, because now Jantis Martis has the other Lamborghini coming over to him, and that is Raul Patel. Patel couldn't quite get the move done, but Martins is coming into the pit, so it wasn't really necessary for Patel to get the move done. Now look at Galloway, who is overtaking the Williams of Felix Sontag, but he is coming into the pits. Joe will be back. Hopefully, we sort that out as good as possible. But that is no idea for him. And then we look at Michael Lopez, who's got Armacar pressurizing him, tried to overtake him at Nuggets and Beckett section. Didn't really work. Then we look at Byrne, who is getting held up by the Williams of Sontag. He's down at personal best by a lot, by over 2 seconds, of course, getting held up by Sontag. Gonna try around the outside. Don't think that's gonna work. We have McLaren and AlphaTauri. And AlphaTauri trying to overtake the McLaren behind. They will be closing in on these two. Sontag won't improve, neither will Byrne. And that AlphaTauri is Q Park. He was trying to overtake the McLaren. Byrne's gonna try and go for the move. Can he get the move done? Nope, not quite. I wasn't brave enough on the brakes. He's lost pretty much tie grip, so he ain't that confident on the brakes. And that McLaren is Joseph Willows, who is in front of Byrne. And because De Rosa's in the pit, I know that's close. Willows goes through ahead of Burn from that. Burn try to go for a move on Sontag, didn't really work. And hopefully Joe is back. Yes, he is.
I hope I am, because it's very clear that Virgin Media is having some blackout issues again. But anyway, let's hope I can go a little bit further into this practice session or not, as there's a huge traffic jam going through into the left and right-hander there. As coming out of Club Corner now, there we go, because for some reason I still can't access Twitter at the moment. I can access Discord and YouTube, but I can't access Twitter at the moment. So that's that really. As anyway, look at this huge traffic jam that's going on here at this point in time. Sorry if I'm being a little bit distracted. I'm just hoping that Twitter can eventually work at some point, because it's really playing up on my computer for some reason. So anyway, as I'll close Twitter for now. So anyway, where was I? Where was I last time before I started cutting out again?
I actually can't remember.
Right. Well, we might as well then talk about what team should we talk about? We might as well talk about Alfa Romeo, I think, because well, and the fact we'll talk about McLaren. In fact, as we're looking at Joseph Willows, because it's safe to say really McLaren this season have not had a very good season at all. As it's safe to say that McLaren once again with mechanical problems at the Austrian Grand Prix. Willows suffering from a gearbox issue, which in turn led to Bence Valdinga crashing into the back of him and ending his own race there. And well, Kiro was able to finish that race, albeit out of the points. But yeah, this season, if we talk about how Renault have had issues with mechanical failures, but I think it's safe to say throughout the season, you'd have to say McLaren have had the worst when it comes to mechanical failures.
Yeah, indeed. It will probably keep on going throughout the rest of the season, but of course they've lost a lot of points this season from reliability, and they just need to hope that it doesn't cost them more points, but eventually it will.
Oh, there's contact there, because the Aston Martin there was coming out of the pits, and we have this huge traffic jam that's forming around the track. It kind of reminds me of, you remember the 2018 race with the car weaving glitch that we had, where the Red Bulls, Ferraris, and Mercedes were fighting it out for the win on that day. Well, it kind of reminds me of that, except we don't have a weaving glitch on this occasion. But Martin and Chung there coming together, and Chung is going to have to get a new front wing as a result of that. But yeah, it's pretty much just like your standard motorway traffic here with all these cars.
Yeah, they can't seem to get ahead of the Williams, and they're pretty much fighting each other.
Yeah, indeed. As now we look at Davy Cupot now, then he's just going around Woodcote now, then as he'll now approach Copse Corner. De Rosa is currently the only one in the pit lane right now as we speak. So we're just under 10 minutes to go now then in this session. This is what the leaderboard looks like. It is Roke at the top with Quarg in second, Byrne in third, followed by Patel in fourth, then it's Carr in fifth, followed by the Haas reserve driver of Nicolas Zorbach in sixth, then it is Lopez in 7th, De Rosa in 8th, Chatfield 9th, Chung in 10th, followed by Gallet in 11th, Perrin in 12th, Willows in 13th, followed by Kloss in 14th, Valdinger in 15th, then it is Videri 16th, Galloway in 17th, Kupok in 18th, then it is Martins 19th, Wilson in 20th, Griffith 21st, and Stontag in 22nd position. But yeah, that is the current lead. Also for the whole pack separated by 2.7 seconds. Currently Roker's got a 4/10 gap over Roman Quarg, who's currently split in the two Red Bulls as well. There's a bit of contact there between Byrne and the Aston Martin going through into Vale there, but luckily it didn't end in disaster. Of course, the Red Bull will have its normal livery back for qualifying, so do be aware of that one. As Byrne now they're making his way through into the first couple of corners on the racetrack, as we have just under 9 minutes to go in this session. So far there's still a few cars in the pits. Of course, Chung has now just come back into the pits after she lost her front wing. I think it was from Juventus Martins, if I'm not mistaken. It wasn't Aston Martin that she obviously clipped, but pretty sure it must have been Martins that was the one coming out of the pits in my memory serves correct. And I've only just realised as well that Chatfield and Chung have actually set the same time, as you can see, with Chatfield ahead because he set the time before Chung did. But anyways, Cupot's coming back into the pits at the end of this, and it will be very curious as well. Talking about of the sign-ups again, Ra, it will be very curious to see where Kupok and Gal end up, because of course AlphaTauri are pulling out, of course, at the end of the season. So it will be fascinating to see what direction Gal and Kupok go in during the sign-ups.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see where they will go. We'll never know where they'll go right at the moment, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, indeed, as you now look at Joantis Martins in the Aston Martin, as a car, meanwhile, gets up into second place, 81 thousandths behind George Roque, as the Red Bull there just makes his way back into the pits. So now Carr is able to set a good time. Lopez, though, currently down in 7th place in this session. Not exactly ideal, as you ride on board with Amelia Wilson, who, of course, has a brand new helmet for the remainder of a top-class career. As now Wilson picking her way out of the final turn. Let's see if she can improve. I don't think she will, but you never know. And no, she won't. She remains currently down in 20th position. Her teammate Valdinger currently up in 15th during this practice session. And Wilson, we might as well talk about Ferrari, in fact, next up, as we already talked about Galloway's great performance, but if we look on the other side of the garage during the Austrian Grand Prix, Chris Chatfield, it's safe to say that the one-stop strategy for him really didn't work out, and, well, he ended up finishing way down in 14th at the end.
Yeah, and really disappointing for Chatfield, and it's well not great, and he's got to hope that to come back stronger in Silverstone and try and get back in the points. But of course, these things happen, so there's very much a consistency in the mid-pack.
Indeed so, as now we look, as Wilson now approaches Maggots and Beckett's, and Chatfield, of course, will want to bounce back after that horrific race at the Austrian Grand Prix. Wilson, of course, was one driver that was able to beat him last time out. Wilson having a pretty decent race considering the car that she's in, and she now has, what do we have? We now have 8 races left in her career, and she's wanting to go out on a bang. We're still yet to find out, of course, who is going to end up replacing her for the last 4 races of 2022. Whether it will be the reserve driver Gabriel Gomez or whether it end up being another driver, we shall wait and see. Of course, we still have quite a while yet before we find out who that person is going to be. As Wilson crosses the line, does not improve and stays in 20th position. She actually got overtaken there during that lap. As meanwhile, Patel having a pretty good session up there in the Lamborghini, up in 5th position. Teammate Chung in 10th. So far, both the Lamborghinis in the top 10. As Wilson just comes out of the arena corner there, as she's now onto the Wellington Straight. 5 tenths down in the first sector compared to George Roque, who has been at the top of the session throughout the majority of it so far. And Roque, of course, determined to try and get a victory this season in 2022. Still yet to grab a victory as a Red Bull driver. Had a winless season in 2021. And so far, still yet to get the victory. He's just been pretty content with finishing second throughout the entirety of the season so far. For the majority of the season, I should say. But, yeah, that's pretty much that, really. Meanwhile, Gal tries to have a look at the other Alfa Romeo going around Stowe Corner. But they're both coming into the pits at the end of the lap, both of the Hungarian drivers. Of course, it will be their home race next week at the Hungarian Grand Prix, so they'll be wanting to put on the show in front of their fans at the Hungaroring. As Laura Chung, we're looking at now then, who's actually come back out onto the track after she obviously lost her front wing a little bit earlier on. From the collision with the Aston Martin that came out of the pits with that huge traffic jam that was forming around the racetrack, and she will be on a fresh set of tyres. For anybody wondering, of course, we are on the medium tyres this week for the British Grand Prix. Of course, we had the medium tyres last time out in Austria, which means that the medium tyres will not be available for the next race in Hungary. It will either be the soft or hard tyres, of course, because of that new rule that was brought in about the tyre compounds at the beginning of this season. As Lopez had a lock-up for him today, as he was up on his personal best, he's still going to go improve. He does, but only into 4th. And without that mistake, you'd have to wonder if maybe he would have got ahead of Quark. Well, he would have got ahead of Quark because, as you can see, he set the same time as Roman Quark, as you can see. He was actually up on Roque as well, but that lock-up definitely costed him. Maybe shades there of what happened at Mazzano when he was challenging Roque for pole position in that race, but ended up dropping it all at the final corner there. And as a result, Lopez setting the same time as Quark, and he would have definitely been at the top had he not made that mistake going into Stowe Corner there. So, not Stowe Corner. Vale corner there, as in fact the top two are now currently in the pit lane as we speak, as we have just over 3.5 minutes to go in this practice session. So let's have a look at what the leaderboard currently looks like now then. It is Roke at the top with Carr in second, Quarg in third, Lopez in fourth, then it is Byrne in fifth, Patel in sixth, followed by Zorbach in seventh, De Rosa in eighth, Chatfield ninth, Chung in 10th with Gal 11th, Perrin in 12th, Willows in 13th, Kloss in 14th, Valdinger in 15th, Vaderi 16th, Galloway 17th, Kupok 18th, Martins in 19th, Wilson 20th, Griffiths 21st, and Sontag in 22nd position. As there is still 5 cars in the pit lane as we speak, and wait, that 4 now, as we're getting into the closing stage of this practice session, as we will be getting close to the start of the qualifying session ahead of the British Grand Prix here at Silverstone, as Laura Chung making her way out of Luffield corner now then, before making her way through Woodcote. And of course we do usually get some very good racing here at Silverstone, and there was a bit of a thing going on with this corner, in fact, going through into Copse corner, in fact, and that's that really, as now Wilson making her way through into the left-hander, as in fact Byrne has now improved, and so is Quarg, in fact, so a couple of more improvements happening as they've pushed Lopez back down into 5th position. Lopez deciding to come back into the pits after his little mistake that he had in the session there. So now it's only Chatfield and Chung are the only 2 drivers who are tied on lap time. Chung, speaking of which, looks like she's not going to be able to improve on this lap as she just comes around Club Corner now then, as now she will come across the line, and it looks like she's not going to improve. No, she is not. But so far, early indications, right? It's safe to say that maybe Red Bull have got a bit of an advantage around here.
Yeah, maybe, but of course it is close between Red Bull and Mercedes, with car only 81 fastest down on road, so you never know what can happen.
Yeah, indeed, as we now look at Laura Chung, who's making her way down the straight, and she is 76 thousandths off a personal best in the middle sector. As we now have 1.5 minutes to go now then in this practice session, and I think pretty soon, maybe when we go under a minute to go in the session, we will be riding on board with the drivers for the remainder of the session, as we are getting close to the start of qualifying, which will be coming up in a little bit, so don't worry about that one. As we now look at a side-by-side action there, that's Kupok getting by on one of the Haas drivers through into Copse corner. And I think we talked about how Haas have got an upward trend for the remainder of this for 2023. That could put a little bit of a smile on both Michael Mocho and Barches Kloss. So it'll be fascinating to see if they are still at Haas next season or not. We'll have to wait and see. But if they still are, then maybe they've got a good chance of doing well, depending on how much upward trend that is. So anyway, as now Chung, as we're going to ride on board with the drivers for the remainder of the session, Chung crosses the line. She does not improve and stays where she is. David Kupok in the AlphaTauri just comes around the final corner as he now crosses the line, and no improvement for the German driver. Same for his fellow compatriot Zorbach, who does not improve. He's had a pretty decent session as Zorbach, being up in 7th place. Roke across the line, no improvement, stays where he is. Barches Kloss crossed the line himself, and he doesn't improve, stays where he is for the moment. Lopez just trundling down pit lane, I think. Might be just trying to get some mileage in that Mercedes. Perrin in final corner, 10. And then we have 9 and 8 now then, as 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and then 2 and 1 and 0. And the checker flag is out. That is the end of the session. The Alfa Romeo there was the last car to cross the line, that being Amelia Wilson. So Wilson was the last one to cross the line there. No improvement for Chatfield and the McLaren there as they crossed the line. A few cars going back into the pits. Benz Valdinger just coming around Club corner now then, or the second part of Club he goes, as he will now come across the line. Not expecting an improvement from the Hungarian, and no, he's not. He's going to stay in 16th. Evan Byrne, across the line he goes. No improvement, stays where he is. Jake Galloway improves, but only into 16th position. Gal just getting some mileage in the car. As we now look at Laura Chung, who's making her way down Hanger Straight now then, before approaching Stowe corner, and now into the right-hander she will go, as she will now make her way out of the turn before making her way towards Vale and Club now then, approaching that at about 295 kilometers an hour there. So through the left, and then through the double right-hander goes the Lamborghini driver. Through the second part as Laura Chung crosses the line in the Lambo. I don't expect an improvement, and no, she does not improve. Same for David Cupot that we're currently riding on board with, as Cupot now then across the line, no improvements. We've got a yellow flag, in fact. I think I just saw a brief yellow flag. There is a yellow, and it is Jake Galloway who's just gone off at Brooklands there. And how on earth has that happened? Or did it happen at Luffield? In fact, he spun at Luffield Corner there. A little bit of a bizarre mistake there,
Yeah, a bit bizarre, and we usually don't see mistakes there, but now we're seeing it. Yep.
Yeah, the rear grip there really getting to Galloway, but yeah, that's his lap. In fact, he loses his front wing for good measure, so that's him done with. But yeah, that's that. Roke didn't improve on that occasion. Same for Barch's Kloss. Martin's back in the pits. If we now look at Jesus Perinen in the Renault now, then Perinen is in 13th place at the moment. So again, consistency a bit of an issue for Renault during the session. 3rd and 13th. Perinen no improvement. Lopez starting his lap. If we now look at Rahul Patel in the Lamborghini, he now crosses the line and he does not improve. Wilson, the last car to cross the line, no improvement, and that is practice done with, I think. Unless, yeah, I think that is. So, Roke top, car in second, and Quag in 3rd position. So, yeah, as mentioned, so far, advantage Red Bull.
Yep, right now advantage Red Bull, but of course you never know when you get to qualifying game. Looking at Galloway, he was 16th, so that ain't ideal for him going into qualifying, but I think we could have an exciting qualifying coming up.
Indeed so. Well, we're just going to pause the stream for the moment, and then we'll come back with a fresh stream to start the qualifying session. But in the meantime, I've been JW97, he's been Ra, and we'll see you in just a little bit for the qualifying session. See you in a bit.